What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Edgar Markov deck tech. I hope you're excited for some Mardu vampires. But actually, yeah, before we jump into the deck tech, look how creepy Edgar's eyes are. He's like staring into your soul. I was doing the editing for the overlay and the thumbnails, and he just stares right through your soul. It's kind of creepy looking. Anyway, let's cover Edgar. So we have Edgar Markov, 3 colorless, red, white, and a black. Whenever you cast another vampire spell, if Edgar is in the command zone or on the battlefield, create a 1/1 black vampire creature token. First strike and haste. Whenever Edgar attacks, put a +1 counter on each vampire that you control. Edgar's a lot of fun. The Mardu colors for vampires is great. He was perfect for multiplayer commander. I will say this, he's a little overpowered for 1 versus 1 commander. I just wanted to kind of get that out there. If you're going to be investing into this deck, I like to kind of get all the information out there. But yeah, he's a little, you're going to have some really quick games with Edgar sometimes in 1 versus 1 commander. But there's going to be other games where you have some really nice, some nice interactions between your opponents, some good back and forth. But he's pretty powerful. I mean, that command zone ability of getting a vampire on the battlefield, it's pretty busted in 1 versus 1 commander. So I just want to get that out there. A little bit of a player's note, whatever you want to call that. But as far as, let's jump into the actual deck itself. So we are playing vampires. We are getting a lot of vampires on the battlefield. That means one thing. Aristocrats, yes indeed. So Blood Artist is a vampire. We have Cliffhaven Vampire and Falconwrath Noble. Basically, with Blood Artist and Falconwrath, it says whenever another creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. Now Cliffhaven doesn't have that exact ability. It says whenever you gain life, each opponent loses 1 life. For this deck, basically it's about the same ability. So we're getting so many vampires on the battlefield. We also have a few sack outlets in the deck to kind of help us maybe go for an Aristocrats win. We have Viscera Seer and Bloodthorn Vampire. With Viscera Seer, we can sack a creature and get a good scry going. And then with Bloodthorn Vampire, we can use it as a sack outlet. But at the same time, let's say that we swing in with Bloodthorn Vampire. Our opponent doesn't offer up any blocks. We can sack all the creatures out, get some good triggers going. And at the same time, we're going to get +2/+2 to Bloodthorn Vampire. Which might be enough to help us kind of close it out through combat damage. Now, outside of these cards right here, we do have a little bit of a Aristocrats amplifying effect. We have Pawn of Ulamog. Whenever Pawn or another non-token creature you control dies, we're going to create a 0/1 Eldrazi spawn creature token. Bishop of the Bloodstain enters the battlefield. Target opponent is going to lose 1 life for each vampire that we control. And then Zulaport Cutthroat. It's not technically a vampire, so that's why I kind of put it on this slide. But Zulaport Cutthroat is another redundant Aristocrat thing for us to go for. Now, outside of the Aristocrat package that we're running, we're also running some good Vampire Lords in here. So we have Stromkirk Condemned, Stromkirk Captain, and Drana. With the Condemned, this is a great ability. We can discard a card, so let's say that we are going to go for something like Living Death or something like that. Vampires you control get +1 until end of turn. When you have an entire board state of Vampire tokens, simply discarding a card to give them all +1/+1 is a very powerful effect. And the fact that you can do it on your opponent's turn too. You know, you can only activate it once each turn, but you can do it on your opponent's turn or your turn. And it really has kind of complicates the board state for your opponent and really helps you push in a nice little alpha swing. Stromkirk Captain, they have +1 and have first strike, and then Drana. Drana is a great card, great early vampire to get down. And sorry, I forgot about the guy in the bottom right on Drana. He's really goofy looking. If you look at his face, I forgot about that. And then I saw him staring back at me, pointing his sword. Anyway, so Drana is a really good vampire to get down early, and then get those +1 counters on your vampire tokens. And the good thing about playing Edgar is that these vampire tokens come really cheap, so you can swing into some board states that may not be the best for you, simply to get a few +1 counters on some of your other vampire tokens. We're also running Vampire Nocturnus and Bloodlord. Vampire Nocturnus, we're going to play the top card of our library revealed. As long as it's a black card, our creature is going to have flying and +2/+1. And then Bloodlord, really cool ability. It has Bloodthirst 3, so as long as we've dealt damage to our opponent, it's going to enter the battlefield with 3 additional +1 counters. Then, as long as Bloodlord is on the battlefield, whenever we cast a vampire spell, it's going to have Bloodthirst 3 as its ability. So we can really start having our vampires enter the battlefield with 3 additional counters. Pretty good. Sign me up. Now, outside of the Vampire Lords we're running some utility vampires. We have Sanctum Seeker. Whenever a vampire you control attacks, each opponent loses 1 life and gains 1 life. We have Blood Baron, which is a really good beat stick. That protection from white and black and lifelink is really good. And we're also running Necropolis Regent. Now, the cool thing about Necropolis is that whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, put that many +1 counters on it. So let's say that we're swinging in with 2 2/2s. That's going to be 2 +1 counters on there, so we'll have 2 4/4s. The cool thing about Necropolis is we don't have to have her deal damage to get that bonus. Once she gets on the battlefield, that applies to all of our creatures. So it'll allow you to kind of push into a really good board state to maybe get some Let's say that we don't have a really good board state to swing into. We can get her down and get some really big creatures, at the sacrifice of losing some other creatures. We're also running some good value flyers. We have Falconwrath Aristocrat, which can double as a sack outlet and get some +1 counters on there. Then Olivia, that one, the activated ability of deal 1 damage to a creature, and then 5 mana, gain control of target vampire for as long as you control Olivia. So, wonderful cards for the deck. Now, outside of the Vampire Lords, we're also running some Vampire Removal. We have Vana, which is going to allow us to take care of any target non-land permanent. Anawan's going to put some pressure on our opponent, making them sacrifice a non-vampire creature at the beginning of our upkeep. And then we also have Drana, which is a great way for us to kind of sink some extra mana into taking care of some creatures, and at the same time pumping up Drana. We're also running Patron of the Vein, enters the battlefield, destroy target creature an opponent controls, and then whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, exile it, put a +1 counter on each vampire you control. So the good thing about Patron is we can get him down, destroy a target creature, and then use any of our removal to get an additional +1 counter on each vampire. And then we also have Dark Imposter. It's a great late game mana sink. Exile target creature, put a +1 counter on it, and then it has activated abilities of all creature cards exiled with it. I love Dark Imposter. It's one of my favorite Magic cards. I built a Assassin's deck when I first got into Magic. And I always remember the time that I got down Dark Imposter and had a lot of mana and started exiling all my opponent's creatures, and my opponent rage quit on Magic Online because I had Dark Imposter online, and I had a ton of activated abilities. So always love Dark Imposter. Outside of the vampire cards, we are running some key. These are some of the key vampire cards in the deck. We're getting some 1/1 tokens. Why not? Let's throw Skull Clamp in the deck. It's just silly, extra value. We can equip it and draw 2 cards on those vampires. We're also running Diabolic Intent, which is really good. We have a lot of cheap vampire creatures. Additional cost to cast it, sack a creature, search your library for a card, put it in your hand. Only 2 mana, really good. And then Blade of the Blood Chief, which is just a really good utility card. Whenever a creature dies, put a +1 counter on it. If it was a vampire, put 2 counters on it instead. So we're running around 30, 35 vampires in here. Great card for the deck. And we're also running Living Death and Patriarch's Bidding. If we are going for a little bit of Aristocrats, or let's say some sort of board wipe happens to our vampires, we're running enough creatures that, it's pretty good to run both of these in there. That way you can bounce back from some sort of board wipe, or if you want to sack all of your creatures, then cast one of these to kind of bring them back. That will be the deck tech in a nutshell. I do have 3 gameplay videos up for you, so be sure and check them out. And if you enjoyed the video, like and subscribe. Thanks. Bye.